Morning, welcome to Thinking is Contagious. I want to talk about the minimum wage and its impact on business in the United States. I heard this morning on CNBC, they had an interview with the CEO of PayPal and the CEO of Chipotle. And these guys are on there um tooting their horns about these initiatives that they took to see how they could help their employees. That basically, 2 years ago, they started looking at their employees, how they were having a hard time making ends meet, and the initiatives that they took to try to help them, and that they've raised wages 20% and blah blah blah. All the narrative that is so important to get before the public today. And what I want to tell you is this: if you really think about it, um, on the heels of the executive order of Joe Biden to quote unquote bring about more competition in the workplace, and make things fairer in the workplace, the minimum wage is probably uh, the most, the biggest obstacle that there is to competition. And I'll tell you why. Because when you really think about it, of course, Chipotle, of course, PayPal, of course, Darden, of course, McDonald's, of course, Burger King, of course, all these guys are going to push to increase the minimum wage. Because you know what the increase of the minimum wage is? They can absorb it. They have the huge footprint, they have limitless dollars to throw at this problem, and they know if they can garner market share at the expense of the mom and pop, and that's who will be eliminated in this push to raise the minimum wage. And have no doubt about it, it's the mom and pop, okay? Because when your only choice, when you want a burger, is McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's or whatever, one of the big guys, whether it costs $1 or $1.50 or $2 or $3, that's what it costs, because they're all in it together. They've all raised the minimum wage in cahoots, okay? And when you used to go to the little corner place to get a burger as a competitor, that guy's not in business anymore because he can't pay his server $15 an hour because they can't afford it. That is the biggest deterrent. That is the biggest obstacle to competition. And that's why you see corporate America so hell bent on being the good citizen, of putting forth that face to the public to say, look how worried we are for you. Look how concerned we are for you. Look how much we want to help you. That we're going to raise the minimum wage. Of course they are. Of course they are. Because by raising the minimum wage, like we said, like I've been saying, they will eliminate their competition. They will divvy up the pie among the big guys. And you talk about executive orders against monopolies and to encourage competition, you're just the opposite with minimum wage increase. You are encouraging just the opposite. There will be no little guy. There will be no mom and pop. There will be no middle America, center of town store available to compete with the big boxes. They're going to own everything. They're going to own the market. They're going to own everything. And guess what's going to happen next? When they finally get a hold of everything, and there's no little guy to compete with, guess what they're going to say? Well, we can't afford to be paying everybody $15 an hour or $20 an hour. Here comes automation. Here comes online, like we're seeing now. Here comes automation and online sales. Guess what? Yeah, we're going to keep paying you $15 because, can't take that back. But guess what? But instead of 100 employees, now we have 75. And that's where all this is heading. That's why you have the support of the business, of the big businesses in this country, of the big corporations in this country, for all these liberal causes, because they know at the end of the day, the money in the hands of people who don't know how to make money or preserve capital is critical to their moving forward. The elimination of the competitor, of the mom and pop upstart competitor that can move quickly, innovate, and is entrepreneurial, is the hardest thing for the big giant corporations to compete against. The biggest thing that they have that they cannot compete against is the dexterity, the quickness, and the entrepreneurship of the mom and pop. The services that they can offer, the extra touches that they can offer, the difference between walking into a store and dealing with the owner than dealing with a $15 an hour employee who doesn't really care. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them don't really care. All they're there is for their paycheck. Whereas if you walk into the mom and pop and you talk to the owner of the business, they're passionate, they convey their passion, they tell you what is important, what is necessary, they guide you and they help you, and guess what happens? You go back there, even if it costs you a little more. But that's what they can't compete against. So they have to eliminate that. And the way they eliminate it is through the minimum wage. People, it's so obvious you're being played. If these corporations cared so much about you, okay? If they cared so much about you, then why did you need unions in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s? Why did you need unions so badly? If they care so much about you, how come it takes this, the pandemic, to get the minimum wage increase that you wanted, if they cared so much about you? You know why? Because they had all the leverage. But now they have less leverage, so they're saying, okay, how can we parlay this where we give up front what they're asking for, but at the end we control not only the means of production, but the capital. And that's how this is happening. Believe me, this will not end well for the worker. This will not end well for those people who are most affected by minimum wages. This will not end well for you. You're giving the monster what he's asking for. This should be a system of competition, free enterprise, open and free enterprise, okay? Where the wage is determined by the success of the business. And guess what? If you have to pay more money as an employer, the market will dictate how much money you have to pay for those employees. Regardless of what they try to convince you and tell you how the employer is manipulating and not paying, believe me, if there was not a supply of laborers willing to take the job at X amount of dollars, it would have to be increased X plus 5%, X plus 10%, 20%, whatever it is, until they get to the saturation level, until they get to the point where they are fully operational and have enough employees to run their businesses. The market will take care of itself. This way, the market is being manipulated in favor of the big guy, not the little guy, not the guy who thinks he's making gains with his minimum wage increase. Believe me, you will end up losing. Out of 100 that are employed today, when things stabilize, 75 will be employed. You're playing against the casino. You're playing against the whale. You're playing against the infrastructure of the system. They're not looking out for you, they're looking out for themselves. They make it sound right now like they're worried about you and they want equality and they're worried about gender and race and all. They don't care about any of that stuff, okay? What they care about is making sure that what's in your pocket they get. And the only way to stop that and combat that is with a free market where the best wins and prevails. The one that prevails is not based on color, race, religion, creed, sexual orientation. That's what the system wants you to fall for, because they can control those things. They can manipulate those things to their advantage. But when the result, the bottom line, the winner and the loser is determined by who built the better mousetrap, who is more entrepreneurial, who is more quick on their feet, who is more able to adapt and adjust, that's what they're afraid of. And that's what small business, that's what the mom and pop brings to the table. And the mandate here is raise the minimum wage until we run them out of business. Once we run them out of business with this increase in the minimum wage, and we have control of 90% of the market share between all us big guys, bring in the automation, bring in the technology, eliminate the jobs, get the payroll back to a controllable number. And when there are less jobs, guess what's going to happen? When there are less jobs to be had, the employer is going to be able to dictate how much he pays. And it ain't going to be more, it's going to be less. You're shooting yourself in the foot by voting Democrat. You're shooting yourself in the foot by believing the liberals. You're shooting yourself in the foot, and it's not going to end up well. Okay? Think about it, rationalize it, use your own mind, think it out. Thinking is contagious. Think it out and see if it makes sense to you or not, because it sure as hell makes a lot of sense to me. Thanks, and have a good day.